think that Trump won Wisconsin in 2016? And why do we think, looking at the polls now, that he's become much less popular? Because now Trump is barely holding on to a 50% approval rating in Wisconsin.
Well, I think he definitely showed up in the state quite a bit, which helped to rally his base to get out to vote. And I think for a lot of those people that swung from the Obama coalition into the Trump coalition, that gave the impression of momentum and possibly helped them change their mind on how they might have voted otherwise. I've said this in many other interviews that I've had since that election, that it was a mistake not to have Hillary Clinton come to the state. That's one thing that voters in Wisconsin always look for, is for a candidate to show up. And the fact that they had a scheduled event in Green Bay right before the Orlando shooting that was canceled, that was supposed to be her and Barack Obama, and that got canceled and then never rescheduled, and she never came back to the state after the primary. So I think that was one thing that could have helped to fire some people up and get some more people out on those doors when we need them.
So I'm actually going to cause some controversy and disagree with Rob on this one.
That's the one I hear the most from people.
Hillary was in Pennsylvania, I think more than almost any other state, and she still took an L in Pennsylvania. And I think, having a candidate come is great, but I think looking at what Trump did to get the Obama voters to go from Obama to him is important. And I think what he did was he talked to a lot of folks that felt left behind in the recovery, the people who are still working two jobs, or the people who aren't making ends meet. And he said, I'm going to make it better. I'm going to fix things. I'm that guy. I understand you. Whether or not it was true, which I think clearly we all know it wasn't true, and look at what he's done his first year, it wasn't true. So I think why his poll numbers are now sitting in the high 30 approvals with mid 50 disapprovals in Wisconsin is because he spent his first year arguing with people on Twitter, decreasing the United States' role in the world economy and in the world as a leader, and giving the biggest tax cut in U.S. history to the people who need it the least. So these people that he said he was going to protect and defend and, make their lives better, he spent his first year ignoring or directly shitting on with his policies. And I think these are the folks that we need to talk to in 2018 and in 2020 to get them back into our coalition, showing that the policies we're going to put forward are actually going to make their lives and their families' lives better.
For me, I think it's multifactorial. I don't think you can nail it down to any one particular thing. It's just all of these different things mashed together gave him the edge. I personally talk a lot about that this was the first election with voter ID laws. I think the people that affected was numerous, but then also the people that discouraged from voting because, when you're working two jobs, you're, at work almost the entire time the polls open, and on top of that, you have to go figure out how to get an ID, how to collect the documents you need for that, and how to navigate the free system, or if you don't even know about that, how to scrape enough money to pay for it. Like, for a lot of people who are just struggling paycheck to paycheck, it's just not your priority. I think a lot of people sat it out because the economy is getting tougher too. So it's just like a mix of kind of everything that's been discussed. I don't think necessarily any one thing tipped it more than another.
It's definitely a combination.
Absolutely. And I think, we cannot stress the impact that voter ID had enough. The Journal Sentinel ran an article about a month before the election that said up to 300,000 voters lack the necessary ID to vote. And so I don't think we'll ever know the exact number who didn't vote, but we can definitely say, we can agree with Glenn Grothman that it probably swayed the election.
Are there a lot of people in Wisconsin who are voting with guns as one of the most important priorities, one way or the other? I'm from Ohio, and I know a lot of people who are gun owners and who, either they themselves felt or had heard that, Hillary was going to take their guns away, and that became an important thing they were voting on.
I guess I've heard that from a small handful of people, and certainly the discussion around that issue that I've had with folks is that the blanket nature of how gun laws work isn't necessarily one that's beneficial to the needs of everybody. So I've, you hear stories of people that live on farms that have, say, coyote issues. And if you're trying to take care of your coyote issue, a regular handgun or rifle it's a very difficult shot to make. So something that's more of a semi-automatic, you have a better chance of taking down that coyote, right? However, a weapon like that in a city environment where where people are a lot closer together and it's easy to get into situations where tempers may flare, that becomes a very deadly prospect. So I think definitely the way that we talk about those issues, think about that in a different way in how we approach that. Because if we say we want to have universal background checks, that doesn't necessarily mean you're not going to be able to get your gun. We're going to make sure you're able to legally have that gun. And explaining that in a way where we're not looking to take that away from you if that's what you think you need. It's just what's the harm in waiting an extra day or two. It's a difficult topic to approach.
Yeah, for sure. I at Christmas dinner with the extended family tried to talk a little bit about guns, and I think we started to come to maybe some beginnings of understanding each other, but it's a long, difficult thing, and it's a very difficult thing to do in the heat of a campaign, I think. All right. Well, do we have any closing thoughts on politics in Wisconsin? Make sure you're registered to vote if you live in Wisconsin. Make sure you're registered to vote if you live anywhere and are eligible to vote. But for this episode, make sure you're registered to vote and have the proper ID long in advance if you live in Wisconsin.
They have a really easy website up here, myvote.wi.gov, and you can check if your registration status, because they've done some voter roll updating. So it's always good to just double check to make sure you're still actively registered. And if you guys are thinking of doing postcards up here, you could print some that have the different acceptable voter IDs on the front. That would be.
Yeah. I think they have those on that website as well, what you need at the poll.
All right. And if any Chicagoans want to join me in driving a bus up to Wisconsin, knock on some doors and get out some voters, I'm all for it.
If you come up by my area, we have a Portillo's now, so we can make it feel like Chicago.
Yeah, I don't even remember where I've eaten in Wisconsin, but I'm a vegetarian. It's a little bit hard in parts of Wisconsin to.
Oh yeah.
Hey, I'm a vegan, so there's plenty of great eatings in Milwaukee for us.
All right.
I think there's some good options at Bombay Sweets.
Okay. So. Well, I'm not vegan. I'm just vegetarian, so cheese curd is fine, and I can always find that. So. All right. Well, thanks everybody. This has been a really great kickoff to our series that we hope to continue on the politics of different states, which we will continue in a couple of weeks with the politics of Ohio, which I am very excited about.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Enjoyed ourselves. I appreciate you guys starting the podcast and all the success you've had this year. So let's keep the momentum going.
All right. Thanks. And
Thanks.
Everybody, we are like 4 likes away from 200 on Facebook. So go like us on Facebook. All right, everybody? And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
May 2018 bring us the blue wave we all need. Hello, everybody. This is Kelly again with Two Broads Talking Politics. When we asked on Twitter what people would like to see in our Wisconsin episode, we got an overwhelming response that our listeners wanted to hear from Kathy Myers. So on the line here right now with me, I have Kathy Myers. Hello, Kathy.
Hello.
So, Kathy, you are running for Congress in the 1st District in Wisconsin.
I am. Yes, and thank you so much for inviting me to be on today. I really appreciate that.
Yes, we're thrilled to have you. So, why don't you tell us why you're running for Congress?
Sure. Well, there's no shortage of reasons to run for Congress. I actually have a fair amount of experience family-wise in politics. I grew up talking politics, and I've been actively engaged in my community as an elected official. And I'm a member of the school board in Janesville, and I was elected in 2013 and reelected in 2016. And I've always sort of kept this in the back of my head that maybe someday I might do something like this. But then Donald Trump was elected, and that sort of accelerated my thoughts and my plans tremendously. And then we had the Women's March, which made me think that, it is time for women to stand up. I think women need to have a voice and should be very much a part of this conversation, and need to be found in more leadership roles. And then on top of that was the selection of Betsy DeVos as education secretary. My day job is as a high school English teacher, and I've been teaching. I'm in my 24th year now, and education is incredibly important to me. And public education to me is the foundation of this country. And so when he put someone in there that really is only interested in dismantling public education, I just felt that I needed to stand up and add my voice as a teacher, as a woman, as a single mom, as a progressive to this race.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned the Women's March. We've been hearing a lot from women who have been running for office for the first time or running for higher office for the first time about how important seeing the collective response of the Women's March was to their idea to sort of push themselves a little bit further in running for office.
I think that women have a history, I think, of not believing in themselves enough. And it's something that I've thought about, and and it was part of my training as well as a graduate of the Emerge program. I don't know if you're aware of this program. It's a national effort, but there's a chapter here in Wisconsin. It teaches Democratic women how to run for office, and that is one of the first things they talk about. Is how, as women, sometimes we don't think that we have enough training or we have enough the right background, and we need to get over that because we have plenty of background and plenty of experience. I mean, I guess to me it lends itself to just how great we are that we actually care about your background and we actually care about your training and what your thoughts are. That to me, I think is the good thing about women. But one of the things I think that women need to do is to embrace the idea that we have something to contribute and that our voice needs to be heard just as much as everybody else's, and that we are really great leaders.
Yeah, I agree. I was watching your video that you have on your website, and one of the things that really struck me on it was you were talking about healthcare and you were talking about it in relationship to C-sections. You said that you had had a couple of C-sections, and I think that that's something, obviously a person's experience, your experience with teaching and being on the school board and things like that matters. But I think it's also important to think about representation. Men who are serving as representatives may have been fathers, but they haven't been pregnant. They haven't had babies. They haven't had that experience. And so, having the representation of mothers in Congress, I think, is very important. People who've gone through that experience.
It's so interesting too when they make decisions about healthcare, especially women's healthcare, and they put together a panel, and the panel has no women on it. I can't imagine how they would how they would react if we